Hello. Today we'll show how to use Ruspo Relay to broadcast periodic announcements over a CB radio channel. The program interface menu consists of several straightforward sections. But let's take a closer look at the controls at the bottom. Ruspo Relay is mainly designed for remote transceiver control or for linking radios as a repeater over the Internet. That is why we have two sections here, this side radio and remote side radio. Each section has its own set of controls. This allows you to control a remote transceiver over the Internet. And you can also control a local transceiver. In our case, however, both functions are combined, because our goal is to configure the radio connected directly to the computer running Ruspo Relay. The system log can help us detect configuration problems and avoid errors. But let's start with options. Connection contains the network connection settings. Since Ruspo Relay works both as a client and as a server, both options should be enabled. In addition, the serial number of this copy of the program must be added to the list of allowed serial numbers. You can find it in the About Program menu. Next, let's configure the audio. The Polite interface uses an audio input from the radio, normally through a 3.5mm jack, and an audio output to the radio through another 3.5mm sound card connector. There are a few important details here. We disable auto level and watch the incoming audio level. In this case, the microphone input is active, so we can see the level moving. We can adjust the VOX on and VOX off thresholds so that, when the radio squelch is closed, the indicator stays to the left of both thresholds, and when the squelch opens because the CB channel is busy, it moves to the right. It is also better to reduce compression for better audio quality and reduce the comfort noise, because we do not need it here. Next, under Controls, we select RX Control VOX so reception will be detected automatically. For TX Control we select Scroll Lock because our USB PC to radio gateway interface emulates a keyboard. The remaining settings should be configured like this. Here we can also change the interface language and enable screen position overall if Ruspo Relay is the only application we need on this computer. On the dedicated Remote PC tab, we can set how often the recorded announcement will be transmitted. It is better not to broadcast too frequently. An interval of around 30 minutes is reasonable. Using the record button, we can record an announcement directly here with the computer microphone and then listen to it.
1 to 3, testing.
When ADV on and ADV sending are both enabled, we can save all the settings. They will take effect after restarting the program. Why do we need ADV sending? Since we are using only one copy of Ruspo Relay, it acts as both the remote and the local transceiver, so we first need to establish the connection and perform the initial transfer. It has now happened, and the audio file containing the announcement we recorded has been saved for transmission over the radio. We can also see that the controls for the remote side radio are now active. We will not need them for this setup, because all configuration will be done through the This Side radio panel, which represents our local radio. This is what the Ruspo Relay interface looks like. Now let's move on to the practical setup with the hardware interface. We can close the log for now. Now let's check how everything works in practice and configure the system. Our setup includes the USB PC to radio gateway, a Louis Ton LT 298 CB radio connected to the interface, and a Louis Ton LT 198 monitoring radio so we can hear the result. Ruspo Relay version 1.30 is installed on this older Windows 7 laptop. The USB PC to radio gateway is connected to the computer through USB and two audio plugs marked microphone and speaker. The microphone plug normally causes no problems, but the speaker out connection may sometimes not be recognized correctly by the computer. In this case, before starting Ruspo Relay, take ordinary headphones with the same type of plug and temporarily connect them so Windows recognizes the audio output. Then disconnect the headphones and connect the standard gateway cable instead. And what is this strange disconnected wire we can see here? Since this radio gateway is intended for professionals and radio enthusiasts, Many users will immediately understand why it has been done. The standard interface cable includes ground or shield, the PTT transmit control line, the microphone audio line that sends sound to the radio, and an additional audio signal from the radio speaker. This last signal is required for the so-called polite mode, which prevents Ruspo Relay from transmitting periodic announcements while the CB radio channel is already busy. However, some transceivers do not provide speaker audio through the front microphone connector, so newer versions of the interface include an additional cable that connects to the speaker output on the rear of the radio. If we use the rear audio connector, we must disconnect the corresponding audio wire from the front microphone connector and adapt the pinout to the particular CB radio or transceiver being used. That is why the wiring looks a little untidy here. We will clean it up later, after completing the remaining tests. Okay, let's try recording our announcement. Ruspo Relay has a built-in voice message recording function. You can find it under Options, Remote PC, where there are just two buttons, Record and Listen. Since the program is designed specifically for voice announcements and radio communications, it is usually better to record the message using the computer microphone. In this case, we have connected this headset. Why is it done this way? Because radio communication requires audio to remain within the appropriate voice frequency range, so recording directly through Ruspo Relay is usually the best approach. But if you already have a professionally recorded announcement, as I do here, there is a simple workaround. Take the microphone and the phone or computer containing the recording, place it close to the microphone, press record, and simply play the prepared announcement. Here we can see the recording level. The microphone is working, so let's start. Okay. There is one small detail. You need to keep the record button pressed while the message is being recorded. Now we can listen to the announcement and make sure that it was recorded properly and that there is no unwanted background noise.
You're listening to a sample announcement played through Ruspo Relay. Ruspo Relay is designed to broadcast pre-recorded messages at scheduled intervals. It can also be used to remotely control radio stations, transceivers, and almost any audio equipment over the internet or a local network while using very little data. Visit ruspo.com to learn more.
If everything is configured correctly, Ruspo Relay will periodically broadcast the selected message. You can choose different transmission intervals, but we do not recommend making them too short, because repeated advertising or information messages should not disturb other CB radio users. We also recommend using a radio with a built-in transmit timeout timer, so that if the computer freezes or another problem occurs, the transmitter will still be automatically switched off. After changing any settings, remember to save them. Whenever you disconnect or reconnect any cables or connectors, always do it with the radios switched off, and restart Ruspo Relay afterwards. For the remaining settings and advanced features, read the Ruspo Relay manual carefully. Everything is described there in detail. Thanks for watching. 73.